Oh, so we were talking about, how art is an intellectual thing and how people, but this is something that, this is one of the, this is a really important thing to bring up though. What's the difference between somebody like a Kubrick who's genuinely thought-provoking, who wants us to think, versus like a hack, like a pseudo-intellectual who's like, well, you haven't dug deeper enough to see into my vision. Like, what's the difference between a Kubrick and somebody who's like manipulative and makes you think you're too stupid for not getting it?
Simple quality. I mean, and now what makes that quality? Well, the depth of it, how it's portrayed. Think of. Let me think. What movie would be a good example? Well, take a comedy like Doctor Strangelove.
I
Now,
love that movie. My
now,
favorite.
yeah. Now that's an intelligent comedy, and I like funny Three Stooges shorts, but I can't compare. If I take the funniest Three Stooges short ever, whatever that might have been, and even go beyond the Three Stooges. Let's say Groucho Marx and the Marx Brothers. I take the best Marx Brothers film, and I think Groucho Marx was one of the absolute comic geniuses of all time. I would love to have interviewed Groucho Marx, but he died when I was 12. But the best Marx Brothers movie still doesn't come close to Doctor Strangelove, for the fact that it doesn't have the intellectual content, it doesn't have the social content, it doesn't have the political content, it doesn't have the layers of depth that contrast society and the individual, free will versus destiny, and these things. That's not to say that a Marx Brothers movie is devoid of intellectual content. It is not, and mostly it's because of Groucho Marx, because he was so brilliant. But it's not the same thing. So the difference between, say, a Steven Spielberg and a Stanley Kubrick is, if you look at any Kubrick, any Spielberg movie, whether it's Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List, or going
Which
back,
I think is your least favorite. I think you really hated Schindler's List, from what I understand.
I didn't hate it. It's just bad. I mean, I don't waste. I'm not going to waste something on it. But you know what's going to happen. If I know what's going to happen, and it happens, you wasted my time, because I can figure it out. I'll give you an example. What really does anger me, though, is about, I guess it must have been 18 years ago. There was a movie, I think, with Johnny Depp called, it was a movie about Jack the Ripper.
I know what you're talking about. Sweeney Todd?
No, not Sweeney Todd. But anyway, it In Blood. Let me go. No, hold on. Let me just ask my wife. Hey, Jess, what was the name of that Jack the Ripper movie that sucked? What? From Hell. From Hell. Yeah, it was a movie called From Hell. So Jess and I went to see this about a year or so before we moved to Texas. And I remember thinking it was a pretty damn good movie, about 75% of the way in. And then what happened? Well, then it became stupid as fuck, and the supposed Jack the Ripper, his eyes turned black. And we went from a pretty good historical psychological drama about a very trite subject, but it was well made up to that point, and then it went all fucking stupid. Another movie that really pissed me off was Steven Spielberg's, what was the one with Tom Cruise and Minority Report, yeah. And for 3/4, 80% of that movie, it's much better than Philip K. Dick. And Philip K. Dick, I could spend an hour talking about how fucking bad he was. But every adaptation of anything Dick is better than the original. But Spielberg gives a real. It was probably up until the 80% mark, arguably the best film that Spielberg ever made. And then that went stupid too, and it became all predictable. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? What? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think that's because Spielberg, at the end of the day, is about money and he's just about the entertainment factor?
No,
So
it's because he's a sentimentalist, and he values emotion over intellect. And I think Steven Spielberg, probably, if you talk to him, is a fairly intelligent guy, but he knows fuck about art. He really does. I mean, he should be a cameraman. He should be a cinematographer. He's got a great eye. But just like Spike Lee has a great eye, but Spike Lee and Steven Spielberg should not be filmmakers because they don't know what a story is about. If you're going to tell a story, you have to have characters that you can connect with. You have to take people into an area that's interesting, that gives you something to chew on intellectually. But if all you're going to do is in Saving Private Ryan is, oh, here's a bunch of cliches. Here's the bland hero in Hanks. Oh, here's the Italian kid. Here's the Jew. Here's the Irish guy who's battling alcoholism or whatever. Here's the asshole who thinks he's going to save the day and fucks everyone up. When you have nothing but a plenum of cliches, what the fuck is the point? You don't have that in Mirror. If you look at Mirror, you are constantly, and whether you're watching for the first or the 10th or the 21st time,
I watched it twice, and I still have to watch it again and again.
Right.
But it's like
you never have to watch a Spielberg movie twice. That watching a Spielberg movie twice is like trying to wipe your asshole with the toilet paper you just used. What's the sense of just putting your shit back on your ass?